It's widely believed that in the planning stages of Star Trek Voyager, the character of Tom Paris was intended to be the return of the character Robert Duncan McNeill previously played on The Next Generation, Nick Locarno. They ultimately replaced Locarno with a new character, Tom Paris, allegedly to avoid having to pay the writers of that Next Generation royalties for every episode of Voyager that included the Nick Locarno character, which would have been all of them. This isn't the only time this has happened. Supposedly, Major Kira on Deep Space Nine was originally supposed to be Ro Laren from The Next Generation. I can see the inspiration, but Kira is unquestionably a different character, also played by a different actor. And on Enterprise, T'Pol was originally conceptualized to be T'Pau from the original series. We never knew anything about T'Pau's past in Amok Time, so replacing her with a new character makes pretty much no difference. It would have just been like a cool reference. But Nick Locarno to Tom Paris, they definitely changed the name, but did they really change anything else? Are these two characters different in any meaningful way? Nick Locarno appeared in one episode of The Next Generation, The First Duty, where Wesley Crusher, now a cadet at Starfleet Academy, is in an accident training with his flight team Nova Squadron. All their ships are destroyed, and one cadet is killed in the crash. Locarno is the leader of Nova Squadron, who pushed the rest of the team to do a maneuver banned by the Academy for being too dangerous. After the accident, he pressured and gaslit his teammates into covering up the true cause of the crash and lying to Starfleet in their investigation. He was highly respected and beloved as a leader, and he leveraged that to convince the rest of the team of a version of events where the dead cadet panicked and caused the accident.
He was my friend too, Wes. I worked to get him on this team, but the truth is he panicked.
We don't know that.
Of course we do.
When they are moments away from getting out scot-free,
Sir, I would like to add something to my testimony.
Wesley confesses and the truth comes out. Nick is expelled from the Academy, but he gives an impassioned plea to let the rest of the team stay. He takes the full blame for the accident, but only after Wesley ruins his cover-up. Tom Paris was fresh out of the Academy when he was involved in a flight accident that killed 3 fellow officers.
Was the accident my fault? Yes. Pilot error. But it took me a while to admit it.
They said you falsified reports.
That's right.
Why?
What's the difference? I lied.
And he got away with it, but later admitted to causing the accident and lying about it, and he was kicked out of Starfleet. Yeah, the writers may have moved some details around, but that's the same backstory. They did the absolute bare minimum to technically say they changed it, but Tom Paris has the same face and the same life story as Nick Locarno. If their goal was to create a different character, they failed. Tom Paris's dad literally has a photograph of Nick Locarno on his desk. I've come up with a new Star Trek character. He's captain of the Enterprise, and he's a bald guy who grew up on a vineyard in France. He was stabbed in the lung by a Cardassian, so now he has an artificial lung. His name is Timothy Kansas. So despite the hilariously low effort that was put into the new backstory, I still have multiple reasons why Voyager should have used the Nick Locarno character for real. And one really compelling reason why they made the right call in replacing him. So why should they have kept Locarno? The main reason is that we saw the story in The First Duty. It was compelling and ethically complex and great television. Tom Paris's extremely similar story is never seen, and after the Voyager pilot, they reference it 2, maybe 3 times for the rest of the show. The details sort of get washed away, and his whole arc just becomes that he was thrown out of Starfleet and has a bad attitude, and now he's going to redeem himself. But that redemption would be so much more powerful if we saw the bad thing he did. If you saw the TNG episode, you don't like Nick Locarno. But Tom Paris is likable right away, and his checkered past becomes a footnote for his character. There are few things I love more in fiction than when I just hate a character, but over time they win me over. I've seen it suggested that Nick Locarno is irredeemable, but I don't think I buy that. Yes, he got a cadet killed and lied about the reasons. And he manipulated his fellow cadets to cover it up. I don't defend any of that. But he was a kid, and when he was scared and backed into a corner, he did very much the wrong thing in a misguided attempt to protect his teammates. 7 years is a long time. You can absolutely come back from that over 7 seasons. There's a good Lower Decks commentary track where Robert McNeil says he considered Nick Locarno to be a bad person at his core, while Tom Paris was ultimately a good person. But I don't know, he's a good actor. I think he could have gotten there. That's the main reason I think they should have stuck with Nick Locarno for Voyager. But I do have another reason, and it is just nitpicking. Voyager tells us over and over and over that Tom Paris is an incredible pilot. The best pilot who ever lived. But the one thing everybody knew about his history is that his piloting skills got a bunch of people killed.
Was the accident my fault? Yes. Pilot error.
Why did Janeway let him fly the ship? Maybe I'm oversimplifying, but they're not giving me much to go on. We never learned the details of the accident. We just know that Paris's flying caused it. Look, Locarno did some reprehensible stuff, but his skills as a pilot were never in question. And like Tom Paris overcoming that would be a cool arc, but that doesn't happen. They just don't talk about it. But there's one very good reason I'm glad they replaced the character. Nick Locarno comes back. Lower Decks gives a look at what became of the character like 20 years later. Since their backstories are so similar, he's like an alternate universe version of Tom Paris that didn't regain his Starfleet honor in the Delta Quadrant. I won't get into the details of his Lower Decks story here, but suffice it to say that while Tom Paris was bettering himself, Nick Locarno was getting even worse.
This guy sucks!
What?
There was payoff for writing out Locarno, we just had to wait 30 years for it. And isn't that the best kind of payoff? Oh, and if they hadn't invented Tom Paris, we never would have gotten this joke.
He looks like Tom Paris.
I don't see it.
They have like the same face. They're identical.
No, I just don't see it.
So like, how upset could I be?